And I think if you look at shots like the recent shots of Urz's front double bicep, you can see that he's improved his arms since the Arnold Classic. I think he's going to be way more competitive than he was at the Arnold, and I think for that reason he's going to place ahead of Ramon. Sixth place, I've got Fabian Maier. So he was 8th place at last year's Olympia. We didn't see him at the Arnold Classic, but I've seen a lot of recent updates of Fabian, and I think he looks really impressive. His conditioning looks really good. He's got a really good shape to his physique. He won, I think, one show during this. He might have won a couple. I know he won one show to get to the Olympia. But he looks like he's made some improvements since last year. And like I said, he was 8th last year. And I just think, based on what I've seen from him so far, he really looks like he could be a top guy in Classic as far as first call-out goes. He's a taller guy. That seems to be the look that they're going for with Chris Bumstead constantly winning. And I'm actually very impressed with his physique. So Fabian Maier is my 6th place pick. In 5th place, this will probably spice things up a little bit. In 5th place, I've got Breon Ainsley. Now, at last year's Olympia, Breon was 3rd. And it's interesting because there's a couple things that have changed since last year's Olympia. Number one is Breon announced that he's going to be switching back to 212 after this year. And he said the reason for that is the weight cap makes it too hard for him to make weight. He doesn't feel like he looks his best with that weight cap, and he needs more room to be heavier to look his best, which is why he's a better fit for 212 in his own words. Now, in addition to that, the Arnold Classic placings really shook things up for Breon because all the guys that he had beaten at the Olympia the year prior wound up beating him at the Arnold in between that Olympia and this one. So again, you had Ramon in 2nd, Urz in 3rd, and Breon in 4th. So there was no Chris Bumstead in that lineup. But you had all those guys from the top 6 at the Olympia. So if Chris had competed there, and Chris probably would have won, that would have pushed Breon to 5th place at the Arnold. And I saw Urz talking on Cutlercast, actually. He was saying, and I think he made a very good point here, is that guys like Breon that have already filled out their weight for the weight cap, they're already at the top of their weight limit, it's really hard for them to improve year after year, where guys like Urz and Ramon, we're seeing them improve so much between shows because they haven't yet hit the weight limit yet. They've got pounds that they can put on. They've got size that they can add. They've got real improvements to make. So we've seen them improve between the Olympia and the Arnold, and then they beat Breon, who had beaten them before, and we've seen them continue to improve from the Arnold Classic to now. So that's why I have Breon in 5th. Brings me to 4th place. I think this is going to be Ramon. So Ramon was 5th at the last Olympia. So this is still a move up for him because I feel like he's improved. But in a way, it's a step back because he was 2nd to Terrence at the Arnold Classic, and he beat Urz at the Arnold, but I don't have him beating Urz here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I think Ramon is phenomenal. I think he's better than Breon. I think he's going to beat Breon again like he did at the Arnold Classic. I think he's improved a lot. And he's just overall an incredible classic physique athlete. But in 3rd place, I've got Urz. I think Urz looks to be the most improved guy in classic physique. He looks to be the most conditioned guy in this classic lineup, which is saying a lot when you've got almost 60 guys competing. We're not just pointing out his striated glutes and his conditioning for the fun of it. We're pointing it out because it really is an incredible level of conditioning. I told you guys before that, like, manager Matt, he was there when Urz was posing in Las Vegas just a couple days ago. And he said Urz is like the classic physique version of Hadi Chupin. He said it is stupid how shredded Urz is. And I think if you look at shots like the recent shots of Urz's front double bicep, you can see that he's improved his arms since the Arnold Classic. I think he's going to be way more competitive than he was at the Arnold, and I think for that reason he's going to place ahead of Ramon. He's just got such a complete classic look. Like I talked about before, he's got, you know, the face for it. He's just got the overall structure, the look. He's got that golden boy classic, like Tom Platz look to him. And I think that really does go into the classic physique, just overall appearance, the stage presence, is looking like a classic guy. And I feel that Urz really does. And of course, the facial stuff and the hair, that's not super important. It's the physique and the conditioning. But when you have all these elements combined, and his posing's really good, and he's got this classic look, like on top of that, that's like the cherry on top. I think Urz is a really good, really solid classic physique competitor. And I think this is going to be the year he breaks into that top 3. So shout out to Urz. I think he looks phenomenal. Now in 2nd place, I've got Terrenceruffin, Rough Diesel. And this is kind of the same thing that we just talked about with the weight limits. I think Terrence is phenomenal. He is one of the best guys to ever compete in classic physique. I think he's going to be runner-up again, which I think is saying, it might sound like it's not praise because I don't have him winning, but it is praise to still have him beating guys like Urs and Ramon because he is that good. Terrence is a great classic physique athlete. But when you go back to this weight cap discussion, Terrence is significantly shorter than Chris, and I think he's significantly shorter than Urs too. I think Urs is around 6 foot. So Terrence doesn't really have a lot of room to improve because of his smaller stature. He can't really add a bunch of size, where it seems like Urs has some room to add size, Ramon has some room to add size. Chris is supposedly coming in like 15 pounds heavier this year. And because Terrence is limited by that weight cap, I don't see him being able to improve enough to beat a bigger version of Chris. If Chris really does come in 15 pounds heavier and he's still ripped and he's still conditioned, I think that's just going to be too much for Terrence to deal with. And that's why in first place, I still have Chris Bumstead. We don't know yet what the deal is with the bicep, if there is any deal at all, if there is any injury, if there is anything that could be holding Chris back. But I think even if he did have a slight bicep injury, I think he'll still win as long as he's on. And
yeah, I just wanna be the greatest. Everybody knows my name, shit. I'ma have this whole fucking game list, spitting with the same wit, and I'm gonna be famous. Ain't nobody able to delay this. Coming up, I had a vision to make it. Never wanted to be nothing, always wanted to play shit.